Good evening and welcome. My name is Michelle Dutrissa and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin Up. I'd like to welcome you here tonight to my online class, I suppose you could call it, where we're going to create a fun, hope. So if you're new to my channel, please jump on, say hello. Oh, sorry, I'm hoping that didn't black out on you. It keeps blacking out a little bit on me. I think it's just my computer at the moment. I'm waiting for my son to build me a new computer. So if we have any little glitches, I'm sorry about that. So, but anyway, what I was saying is if you're new, please jump on and say hello and let us know where you're from. Now, usually on a Tuesday night, I do a template Tuesdays where I choose a template from somewhere like Pinterest and we recreate that card. Tonight we're going to do something a little bit different because I just wanted to have a little bit of a break from doing templates. And we're going to play with Mediterranean blooms. Now this is this one here. So who of you could guess what my favourite colour might be? And there's a very big hint on this page. Or my favourite combination anyway. Okay, so my favourite colour is actually blues, and I just love the blue and the white combination in these papers. Hello, Sue. How are you? Thank you very much for joining us. So we're going to create a card, but I'm also going to use a technique that I haven't done for a while. I learnt it many, many years ago when I was working in Sydney from a very lovely friend of mine. We used to go to her place once a week, and because we worked for Lincraft at the time, and we worked in the craft department, craft and haberdashery. So we used to go to her place once a week, and we used to learn all sorts of different types of crafts and techniques so we could show our customers, and it was always a lot of fun. So I'm going to share with you one of those things that I learned back then. Now, as I said, we're going to use the Mediterranean blooms, and it's got the lovely range of designer series paper. As I said, I really love the blue and whites in this. I probably love them more than I love the fruit. I'm not usually a big fruit buyer as far as stamps are concerned, but with this one, I just had to have the blue and white. So you've got the lovely stamp set, which is a red rubber stamp set. You also have some beautiful dies. Unfortunately, we're not using the dies tonight. We're only going to be using one stamp, one sentiment from our stamp set. We're going to be using our designer series paper, and we may put a little bit of bling. That also comes if in this collection if you buy the whole collection. Now just remember, if you don't want the collection and you just want the stamps and the dies, you get those two together, the stamps and dies, you get a 10% discount. You've got one number up the top of the number for the whole suite collection, and then down the bottom down here they've broken it up into all the individual bits and pieces. So let's get started because this could take us a little while. So I'm just going to pop my catalogue away over there for now. There we go. There's our stamp set that we're playing with, and I'm terribly sorry about the glare. Let's see if I can just move that off a little bit. There we go. That's a bit better. So there's our stamp set, is red rubber. I've already set up my one sentiment. I'm just using one hello on this because I just want to keep this quite simple. And let me just bring in some of the designer series paper. Now, I'm not going to go through, like normally I would show you the whole range of papers, but I'm not going to actually do that today. Just the fact that I want to explain a little bit what we're going to do. I've used up pretty much a whole sheet of paper, and we're going to do some paper towel. So I've already pre-cut all this up just for the fact that I knew that this was going to take a little while to cut it all out. Now, I just wanted to explain to you how I've cut this all out and how I've worked out what I'm going to do. So I grabbed my piece of designer series paper, which I chose to use, and I'm just not quite sure whether I've got much of it left. Hold on one second. Let me just grab a little bit that I have here. And you have got two main designs on this. You've got a cluster of 3 oranges, and then you have another design with just 1 orange. So I'm using the one with the 3. Okay. Now I could have just very easily have made this quite simple, use the dies and cut out just 1 image. Paper towel is where you layer the design or paper on top of each other to form like a 3D design, or make your design into a 3D image. So what you've got to do is you take your image here, say for example this little one here, and you've got to work out what's at the forefront and what's in your background. So you've got to start off with a whole image. Now generally with paper towel you would have anything up to, could have anything up to 6 images. When you buy a paper towel kit, when I was taught how to do it, we always coated the back of the paper with a very thin layer of either Mod Podge or a PVA glue. I probably wouldn't use a PVA glue because PVA glue isn't acid-free. Any glue that has, hello Chia, thank you for joining. Any glue that has an odor is not acid-free. That's a good way to find out whether a glue that you're using is acid-free or not. So you would coat the back of it, and that was to give the paper a little bit of extra strength, because you're going to be cutting out all these little like the stems and the flowers and everything, and then you're going to shape your paper. So you've got to work out which is in your background and which is in your foreground. So if we had a look at this image here, you've got this leaf here which is in your background. Then on top of that you've got the next leaf. Then on top of that you've got your orange. You've got this leaf here which is in your background. But then you've got this one here which is just coming forward because it's on top of the orange. And then you've got 2 flowers. So you've got to break it all up into segments. You also want to be able to, when you cut this out, leave a little bit of a segment there. So if I was cutting out this leaf here, I would actually take a portion of that orange and I would continue that leaf into that flower. So you do waste a lot of designer series paper. As I said, I've only got this piece and a whole stack of scraps left of when I was cutting out my images. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I've cut out, and your best thing to cut out these with is actually your craft knife. So what I have is our Stampin' Up take a pick tool with the craft knife tip on it. I also have a glass plate. Now, of course, you could use your glass crafting mat here, but you could also scratch it. The reason why I think this can tend to scratch a little bit is the fact that it is a glass that has been treated so not to shatter. So, and I think it just makes it that the coating, because the coating on, you can actually feel like to me, it's like a softness, whereas a glass doesn't have that. So this is just a piece of glass that I've got out of a photo frame. You just got to make sure when you buy your photo frames it is glass, not Perspex, and I've just put some masking tape around it. Now, I've had this for years, and to be honest with you, it's dirty, but it's not actually scratched. So that's what I use, and I cut with my craft knife. I cut it exactly the same way as you do, excuse me, when you're using your paper snips. So I hold my paper and I move my scissors, or I on this, and I'll actually just grab a little scrap here and I'll show you. So here's an orange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say cut out this leaf here. I'm going to hold my knife still and just draw it a little bit towards me. But because this is a slippery surface, I can actually move, if I hold that better, I can move my paper. So I'm not really moving my knife very much. I'm just moving my paper because it slides. If I used a self-healing mat, what can happen is the blade of your craft knife can get embedded a little bit in your craft mat, so you don't necessarily get that slip that you do. So with using the glass plate, and that will just cut that off. I haven't put a lot of pressure into that, so it's probably not cut as well as what I could have. But that actually cut it quite well. Let me just remove that little end bit there so you can see. So that's how I've cut out all my bits and pieces here. So let me just show you. I'll pop the lid back on that so I don't put my hands on it. So what I've done is I've started out and I've cut out my first piece. So there's my set of, hello Joan, how are you? Gee, you've started using your craft knife after seeing me use it so easily. Yeah, it is. Many, many years ago when I was doing scrapbooking, I actually saw an article written by a woman who had the most beautiful Gothic style title pages for her scrapbook pages. And I just thought, I've got to learn how to do that. I am very much into calligraphy, or I used to be. I'm very much into scrapbooking. So I learned to cut my own titles. So I did all sorts of different types of scripty fonts in my titles, and most of them were hand cut. So it was something I used to enjoy doing, and I still do. But I mean, you just got to practice to get it nice and smooth, but it is a lot easier to use. So what I've done here to get back to this is I've cut out an image. That's the image that I want to use. And we're going to build this image upwards, outwards. And there goes my computer again. Let's hope this comes back on. Thank you. Oh, you guys actually see that, but it's just popping in and out. But it's mainly because I think the connections in my computer are getting old. So my son's built me a new one. I'm just got to wait for him to get his license so he can bring it down to me. But anyway, so there's my image, and I've cut that out completely. So as I said, we're building this image up. So paper towel is where we're going to build the image up on top of each other. Usually when you use paper towel, you use silicone. So you'd want to get a acid-free silicone, and I can't remember the name of the one we used to use. But I'm going to be using our dimensionals because they'll do exactly the same thing. You just might not get the height, but I don't necessarily, because this is going on a card front, I don't want the same sort of height that I would get using a daub of silicone. So I've started cutting out this one. I've then worked out which is my background and which is my foreground. So I've got this leaf here and these two flower buds. They're my background. This leaf here is my background. This one here, believe it or not, is my background. I've got 3 oranges, but I've decided to not cut this one out because I'm going to leave that one as my background. I'm going to bring these 2 forward. So you don't have to do, like I think I said before, usually with paper towel you could have up to 6 or 7 images to stack on top of each other. With this, we're keeping it fairly simple, and I'm only doing a few stacks, a few layers. But this is where I said that when you cut out something, you want to, so I've cut out one of my oranges here, and that's this one here, but I've kept a little bit of that green there, and I've kept a little bit of the flowers there. Now let me just remove that again so you can see. So there's my flower tips and there's my bit of my leaf. And that's so then when this leaf here sit over the top of it, it actually looks like it's sitting over the top of it. I don't want to cut that out from underneath because I want that to go underneath to form a little bit of a layer. I'm hoping I'm making sense here and not just and you're not getting lost. So then I've also cut out this orange here, and as you can see, again, I've left my flower. I've left a little bit of the leaf there. I've got my stem here, but I don't know if you can see it, but let me just grab my white piece of cardstock and I'll bring it up. I've left a little bit of green coming out the top. So when I layer this here, I've got my brown of my stem coming from the orange, but then I've cut into the next leaf just to give me so that stem, so it's following forward. Okay, so that's that piece, those two there. With this one here, which is this leaf here, I've cut leaf and that flower. Whoops, I've got to work out that leaf and that flower together. So I've got that one. I also have, I'm going to bring up as well. So I've given a bit of added dimension onto that leaf. And you'll see this as it comes together. Now, I have done this with a photo too. I just don't know where it is on my scrapbook page. Then I've got 2 extra flowers for there. And I think the other one was that flower. And a 3rd flower, which is this one. But this piece here, I've left all of that. I've got that stem there, which is the stem going down onto that orange, and that's going to be the last piece. So those pieces will go on top of each other. That one there is going to go on top of there, and then that is going to go back down. Now, I know this all looks really confusing, but you'll see as I piece it together. But you've really got to think when you cut these out and layer them, which pieces you want to have raised and which not. Now, you can just do 2 layers. I've probably just made this a little bit more complicated specifically for myself. Okay, so they're going to form our flowers. Now, once I've cut them out, you can grab your Stampin' Up markers. Now, I'm using here, I've got the colours here, Smoky Slate, and I also grabbed the basic grey, and I ended up using the Smoky Slate. Now, I've gone around all my side edges, so using the brush tip, I might just use one of these bigger pieces. I think I might grab this piece here because I don't think I've done it. I'm going to grab my brush tip and I'm just going to run around all these edges here. And what that just does is just takes off that little bit of a white off the side, particularly when you're doing the layers on the top. And I'm just going to run that all the way around the edge. And all it's doing is just putting a little bit of black or a little bit of grey along those edges. So it's just taking off a little bit of that white, which is the core of your paper. So it's not as stark against all the other things. Now, I know that if you look up Paper Toil on Google, there are instructions there which will give you probably more detail on why you do a lot of these things and more explanation. Now, I wouldn't use my blends for doing this because your blends actually bleed into your paper, which is what you want your blends to do. But all we're doing is just getting rid of that white core by adding a layer of a darker colour, and you want something that's going to blend in like a grey, and that just takes away a little bit of that. And I've gone and done that to all of these pieces. Okay, I did that a little bit earlier. So once we've done all of that, now we can start putting our card together. So I just want to pop these to one side, and let me just bring over the bits and pieces that I've got here. So what I'm going to do, I've got a card base in my Night of Navy, and that is 10.5 centimetres by 29.9, scored at 14.9. I've cut 2 pieces of basic white at 10 by 14.4. One is for my card insert and one is for my mat. I've got a piece of my designer series paper. Now this is the back of the same paper we're using here because I just love this design. And I've cut that slightly smaller. It's about 3 mils smaller, so it is 9.7 by 14.1. I've got a little strip here of designer series paper, which is 10 centimeters wide, and I've just cut it in the same depth of the design. And I've got a little strip of the Night of Navy, which I'm going to just adhere a little bit to that there across the top there. Again, measuring about 10 centimeters. So that's going to go on our insert. I've got another piece of white here because I always like to start with my basic white when I get it, cutting it down into a quarter sheet for my A4. But I'm going to work out which one of these two dies I want to use. And I think at the moment I'm going to go for the smaller one because I just want to put a little bit of a white base underneath it because I want something to stamp my sentiment on. I'm just going to stamp my sentiment into the bottom corner and I just want it to be quite simple, but I just wanted a little bit of a whiteness underneath just to take away, but I didn't want to have a piece that was going to be too big because I don't want to lose this lovely design. Okay, so let's just cut this down to our size. So I'm just going to pop that there, grab my paper snips. So I hope you all took advantage of our free shipping we had today. You've still got a few more hours to place an order if you are wanting to take advantage of it. So it's always worthwhile, and if you wanted to place an order and you don't have a demonstrator, you can always have me as your demonstrator if you live here in Australia, and you can find my online store at michellejatrissa.stampingup.net. Okay, so I've got my cut and emboss machine, my mini one. I've got my piece here with my die. I'm just going to put this in at a slight angle, my die at a slight angle, just so then I get a nice even cut. And the dies I'm using here are the deckled rectangular dies because I just didn't want to have I just didn't want to necessarily have a straight edge. So, which, if you don't have these dies, you could just have a straight edge by cutting with your paper trimmer. That's one of the reasons why I had to place an order today, is because last time I placed my order, I forgot something. So I actually used the wrong order number. If you're wanting to buy a bundle, make sure you use your bundle number, not your individual part, because you don't get your 10% discount. And that's what happened. I ordered the that retro TV. And instead of putting down the bundle number, I put down the die number. You would think after all these years of being in Stampin' Up, I would have worked that one out. Okay, so all I'm going to do is stamp hello down the bottom because I just wanted to keep this really, really simple. So I want this card to be used for anything. It doesn't have to be a birthday card or anything like that. And I just thought hello was just that sentiment that, could go to anybody. Okay, so what we're going to do is here's my piece, which is going to be my card front. I'm not quite sure yet where I'm going to place this, so I'm going to start by not adhering that down. I'm going to grab my large die cut piece or hand cut piece, and I'm going to work out where I want this to sit on here. Now I do want I know that this piece is bigger than my white bit, and I do want that because I do want to have, now I was thinking of having that there. I want this hanging over. Okay, so that's basically how I want that to sit on there. So what I'm going to do is take that, flip that over, and I'm just going to, actually I saw a really good tip. Now I'm wondering where, I'm just looking to see if I've got some Post-it notes handy. Saw a really good idea the other day of how to just grab a couple of these Post-it notes. These Stampin' Up! Post-it notes are really sticky. Okay, let's see if I can get this to work. And what they did was let me just see, let's lay that out. And we don't want glue, so I'm just going to lay my Post-it note in the areas where we're not wanting any glue. So we don't want any glue there. I'm not quite sure how well this is going to stick. We'll give it a go. If I had my other Post-it notes, it'd be really good. We don't want the glue there because otherwise you can flip it over and just put pencil marks everywhere. So let's just have a look. So where the Post-it note is where we don't want glue. So let's just grab our glue. And we're just going to pop a little bit of glue. Oops, I don't want too much glue there. Well, I might need another one. I know that these are getting close to the end of being empty. That's got a bit more in it. Might have been better if I had the Post-it notes on the other side, but anyway. Let's see how we go. Now I've just got to pop that down. Again, lining up that Post-it note with my white, die cut piece. I want that to go a little bit higher. Okay, just take those off. I just thought that was a really good tip. And then you've only just got, you don't have your glue on those areas there. But maybe if I had to put the Post-it notes on this side, might have been a little bit better. But there we go. So there's our first piece. Now, if you wanted to, you could easily just use, because you've got the dies to cut each one of these out, you cut this out and just leave it at that, okay, without having to add all the different levels. But what I'm going to do is we're going to add some levels. So I'm going to bring in my mini dimensionals. I also have some, it's got a new packet here, some regular size dimensionals. And we're going to now start layering this. Now, if I start looking at this, that piece is there. Now, what I like to do is give this a bit of lift. Now, as I was saying before, with Paper Toil, what we used to do with Paper Toil is actually shape this. Now, if you wanted to shape it, now, I don't want to shape this too much because I don't have like that on the back of my paper. But if you grab, to be able to shape it, and just to shape it a little bit, I'm just having a look if I can find, that's what I'm looking for. I love these mats. These are the mats that came with our Stamparatus. And I purchased quite a few of them because they're just a nice thin mat, great to use. I don't want to have anything that's going to be too, I want a dense foam. The other thing that you could use is, you know how you used to be able to get the vinyl placemats? They're really good for this as well. And all you need to shape this is a stylus or even your bone folder. And all you're going to do is pop it down with your front of your design on your paper, and you're just going to very gently rub around those edges. And I'm using the curved side of my bone folder, and I'm just putting a little bit of a curve into there. Now, if you had some Mod Podge or something on there, you could probably put quite a bit of pressure on this and curve it a lot. And just be very careful if you use a stylus, because you've got a very small ball point. Well, there's two of them. Because this is so rounded, I've got a little bit more control. So I'll just get a little bit of an edge like that. Now, what you can do is you can come around and just rub the outer edge, just so then your inner part is curved, but your outer part is laying flat. Okay, now the only part I haven't curved is this little tail here. So I'm going to now grab our design here, and have a curve is going to give that little bit of a lift. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put, first off, I'm going to grab a dimensional, and I'm just dimensional in the middle of that, and I'm going to put a little on the end of that tail, not too much, just a little bit, because what I want to do is have center, but I don't want any lift on that stem. I want that stem sort of coming back down and layering back down. Now, what I should have done first was actually take my backing off my dimensional. That would have helped. Lay that on top, line everything up, and just need that to come down just a little bit more, because you just want to layer that all right on top of each other. You can see there I'm starting to get that little bit of I've got two layers there, and it's just going to give that little bit of a lift. Okay, so now we're just got to work out which one was going to be our next piece down. So we've got this one here, which is, should have actually put this one on first, but that's okay. That's that one there. So that one there really should have been the first one to go on. That should have been the second, but we can, because I've only put one dimensional in the middle, I can slip that under. So I'm going to grab my mat again. And again, I'm just going to give this, let me just grab rid of all of this rubbish here. We don't need that anymore. Give this a bit of a rub just to get some curve on that. And come back in where the stem comes in there, and just push that down. Just push those edges down again. Has anyone done paper tile before? Just interest sake, has anyone tried this? Because it's a craft that's been around for a very, very long time. I mean, when I learnt it, that I'm going back 30 years, because it was before my sons were born. So I'm just going to give that stem there a little bit of, and maybe even a couple of these little, where the stem actually goes into the orange, but just give that a little bit more of a rub in the middle there. So again, we're just going to add a dimensional in the center of that. Take off that backing. Let's bring this back in. We're just going to tuck that into that, line all that up. Oops, I'm just going to bring that just down a little bit. So now we've got another layer. And so we're starting to actually get a little bit of a curved effect. So you can imagine if you had more layers on this, you could get quite 3D effect with this. So now we're going to look at which piece is going to be our next piece to go on. So I've got this leaf here, which is the piece that's going onto there. Now, because of that orange, I've left that round part. Remember I said I want it to look like I shape that leaf and put that leaf on. This one's going to go underneath. So I'm going to do this one next. So let's shape those out of the road. And I'm just going to shape that leaf area there and this one a little bit. Going to bring in the point tip of my bone folder and just give that a crease where those two leaves are coming down. Don't need to worry about the flower. I really just want that lift in that leaf there. This can be a hard type of, actually I might leave that on that. Hard type of one to put in the post because you are creating lots of layers. Now I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue there on my flower and a little that leaf there, but I'm going to pop another dimensional. Now so far I'm able just to use the big dimensionals. Now if you want more height you could add two dimensionals, one on top just to build up. So that one there now is going to sit down on top of that. And that's going to adhere down like that. So the next one I'm going to do is this leaf here, which I think is, actually no it's not. I'm actually going to pop another dimensional just on the inside there. So I've just realised that this leaf I thought was that one is actually going to be the one over here. I started cutting these out at this morning, so I could be prepared for tonight because I did put glue on top of that. So let's just see if I can get that. Backing off the there we go. I just need to, now I've got dimensionals stuck everywhere on me. Just want to pop that, push that in there a bit more because I was going to glue that flat, but I don't want to glue it flat now. So I'm just giving that a little bit of a push just so then that dimensional can't be seen. That's okay. So there we go. So we've got a little bit of lift there now on that leaf as well. So I've kept that leaf as being, the two leaves as being one, but by putting that crease in here, that's giving a little bit of dimensional between the two leaves. So I'm going to do this leaf here, which is this one I've got over here. Now, of course, if there was something I wanted, if I wanted to come back and add something, I can find another piece of paper and cut out some, but we're just going to make do with what we've got. I'm going to put a little bit of a crease and flatten it out where that flower is. And I'm going to grab a mini dimensional and pop it underneath. Let's take that backing off, and I want to put a little bit of glue on this end here, which is where the flower is, so it's going to sit the top of that, sit flat on the flower but lifted. So we're now really getting some really nice dimension into this. So if I can just add a little bit. And can you imagine what it would look like if I did the 9 layers, 7 layers like I used to do years ago? Got a few more people. How are you? It's a little bit challenging, but it's fun. Okay, so now we've got this one here. So we've got the stem, and we've got a leaf. So I want to again put a bit of shaping into that leaf. Just around in a circular motion. And on that flower. Now I don't need to put too much pressure on that. And that center of that flower, I'm just going to poke it down a little bit. I'm trying not to put too much pressure because, as I said, if I had Mod Podge on there, I would have a little bit more strength. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a flatten out that area where that flower is that I've cut through. I'm going to grab another dimensional, pop it underneath there. And I think another one on that flower. And I want to put a little bit of glue right on the tip of that stem, because that stem's going to go right back into the middle of that orange. So it's going to go across there. Whoops. Not wanting, putting it on the wrong, putting it onto the wrong orange. That's my problem. Okay. Let's go to that orange. Going to sit that flower on top of that one. Make sure it's sitting right on top. And then this one here can go into there. Now just remember with this glue, if you do get a little bit of it where you don't want it, it does dry clear. You just may have to pounce it a little bit with your embossing buddy just to take off some of the tackiness. You can get a bit of a rubber and rub off, but the only problem with doing that is that because we've shaped this, we don't want the we don't want to flatten what we've shapened. I've just got a little bit of glue there where I really don't want it, and I'm just trying to rub it around in circles with my fingers without getting too rough. I've got a somewhere on here, my untidy desk, I do have a white rubber that I use for this sort of thing, and at the moment it's on me. So I'm just going to see if I can. This is not the sort of rubber, but if I can clean, I want to get rid of a little bit of this. A nice clean white rubber will do the same thing as a glue rubber that removes glue, and all I'm just doing is very lightly going over some here and just balling up that. Don't use these. Some of these pens, not a soft rubber. They've got a hard. Just be very, very careful. Test out your rubber and just know that this one's a soft one. This is a big pen. And I know it's a soft rubber. Okay, that's removed a lot of that. So we've got to put a flower over the top of this one just to cover up that. And we need to put a flower over the top of this one. So we've got 2 flowers left. I've just got to work out which one goes where. So I'm just going to turn this around until I get let me just have a look at this one. That one there goes on that one. So let's do this one first. So I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to use my sharper point of my bone folder. Just give that a really good rub in the center there and out to those petals. Just push that in a little bit there in the center. And I'm just going to add, instead of a dimensional on this, I'm going to add a tip of glue because I just want that just to sit there. You could also use a glue dot. Now I've just got to work out again which direction went where. That's it there. Nope. That will do. That was right there like that. And then this one here. Hoping I've got the right flower in the right spot. Doesn't quite look it, does it? Let's just have a quick look, see what I've got here. If we've got the right flower here, I'll just quickly cut out another one. No, I've cut it there, I've cut it there. That's the one I want right there. Okay. So what I'm just going to do is we're just going to very quickly just trying to stay on that edge as I'm cutting around. Sometimes you might have to go around this twice just to make sure you've got it, and you'll actually feel it when you do because you'll piece of the paper. There we go. Just grab this brush here and we'll just go around these edges just to remove all that white. So I'm just going to take that one away for a sec. because that's the one that go on here. Just work it out which direction. Now the silly thing is, it still doesn't look like quite right, but that is the one we were doing. So that one there should be coming out like that. Okay, so let's try this again. We're going to shape that, push in that center, and again I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue. I'm actually going to pop it onto there just to make it easy. Still not looking like it's quite the right one, though it is. I think when you shape it, it does bring it in a little bit. So you are going to lose a little bit of length and a little bit of width, but that's okay. There we go. So let's pop our lid back on our glue, put our knife away so we don't cut ourselves. Don't need our bone folder. So there's our, so this flower here I've put a dimensional underneath because I wanted that up a little bit higher, and then these two I've just added a little bit of glue, but we've got now like a three-dimensional pieces of fruit there. Okay, and we could have taken this a lot further, but I wanted to keep it quite simple and quite easy for you to see. So now we're going to grab the rest of our pieces for our card, and let's put our card together. So I'm going to adhere these two pieces together. You can see how I've used up pretty much a whole sheet of designer series paper to make one card. That's okay, because we can get more. Oh, I love that blue and white. Okay, so that's that piece. I just want to add a little bit of glue. So along the top of that. Add just that little strip to there. Of course, you could use your seal to do this, or even your tear and tape. This is for our card insert. So I'm going to pop that to one side, grab our card base. You could with this too. You don't have to use designer series paper. There is no reason why, if you've got an image you really love, stamp it out 4 or 5 times, colour it, but you would have to colour every single layer, okay? So there's a bit more work in it. So if you're using your designer series paper, the colouring has all been done for you. So there's our card insert. Now we're going to add our card onto our base. Now, if you wanted to, you could put some dimensionals behind that, but I'm just gluing that straight down because I think this card has got a lot of height to it already. Now I'm also going to add a little bit of glue here onto the areas where it pops out past the mat that I've got underneath it. And I'm going to use the design on my paper to act as level. Our white piece isn't in the center, it's over to one side. I don't want to go too far over to one side because those leaves, I had to measure all this before I started, and I worked out that from one side to the other was going to be roughly 10 centimetres, and our card is 10.5. So I knew that was going to be fairly close in fitting all that in. But there you go. Now, where is my bling? Because we could add a little bit of bling to this. Don't want to add too much, but we can add a little bit. Just cut the side off that, so grab it out. Use the smaller ones because I do prefer the smaller ones. And I think I'm going to use, what colour? Going to be a good question. Actually, I like the whiter ones because I don't want it to be. So I'm going to pop one there under the hello. One maybe there. And I think up there. Okay. Let me just move some of this stuff off my desk. And there's our card. So I hope you've enjoyed what we've done tonight. It's just something a little bit different. It's taking a technique that I learnt a long time ago for doing, well, they were framed pieces that we used to do back then. You'd put them in a frame, but as I said, I had a page where I had a photo of my son. I'm not quite sure where it's in one of the albums I've got. But you don't want a photo that's too complicated, okay? I think it was a picture of him, and I think he was only quite young, so he was less than 2 years old, I think. So there was a couple of toys around him. I can't remember now exactly. I think I lifted him so it looked like he was coming out of the photo. It may have only had 1 or 2 levels because you don't want to be cutting up a person's face too much. It's like when you're doing mosaics. When you're doing mosaics in scrapbooking, you don't want to mosaic a face. You want to plan it so the face is within a square of a mosaic. So you don't want to be cutting photos up, but you can do it. But you've just got to really plan it out. But it is a fun technique. It's something that, you know, hasn't been done for a long time, not alone in it. Just give you that lovely dimension so your card looks like it's all curving in, so that fruit actually looks popping off the card because they've got shape and they've got curve. They're not just a flat piece. The leaves have got a little, you can see, but this leaf here has got a nice sort of bend to it. So there you go. Give it a try. What you think and how you go with it. Keep it simple and see how you go. Choose a design that has got a clear image to it. Like this had a clear image. There was oranges and leaves and flowers. You don't want flowers that one petal blends into another one. So give it a go. Have fun with it. As I said, I'd love to see what you create. Let me know with a picture in it of it. So anyway, I'm going to go back and join my husband and TV probably. So have a lovely day. See you on Friday as we are live. So take care. Bye for now. And thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate you being here. And hello, Anita. I didn't say hello to you before. Sorry about that. Okay. Take care. Bye now.